There is evidence about a bender's ability as links to their emotional well-being. At the beginning of the episode, Katara and Sokka get into a fight. Katara gets angry and she begins to shout and swings her arm. This starts to create a wave of water behind her when she does this. However, as Katara's voice gets louder and her body language become more aggressive, the wave become more powerful and this leads to Katara not being able to control it anymore. When Sokka and Katara first discovered Aang's in the iceberg, I couldn't help but notices that the iceberg begins to close and dramatic music begin to start to play to signify the importance of this scene. This certain scene reminded me of the legend called Lost City of Atlantis. Intrigued, I researched about this legend and I discovered that an archaeology professor named Ken Feeder suggested that Atlantis is not a perfect society. Quite the contrary, Atlantis is the embodiment of a materially wealthy, technologically advanced, and militarily powerful nation that has become corrupted. This new information blew my mind because I felt like this perfectly describes the state of the world of Avatar The Last Airbender. In Season 3, it is revealed that the Fire Nation started with the war with the intention to improve the world. However, the Fire Nation's ruler became corrupted and lost sight of his original goals. Thus, a 100 years war started and the genocide of the Airbenders. Iroh is associated with flowers from the very first scene that he is introduced, and since he asked Zuko,
"Why don't you enjoy a cup of calming jasmine tea?"
But jasmine can come in the form of a flower. The main reason why I am pointing out this detail is because the dialogue implied that Iroh is a part of Order of the White Lotus, since White Lotus is also a flower. Throughout this episode, there are many clues that suggests that Aang is the Avatar. The main clue is that Aang is the first airbender to be seen in the last 100 years. However, there are more subtle details that implied that Aang is the Avatar. One of these details is that the last piece Iroh put down on his game board is the air nomad symbol. Then, a gush of wind blowed past the board. I personally believe that this was the show way of telling the viewers that the Avatar was about to be introduced, since the next scene is about Aang meeting Sokka and Katara. As the iceberg begins to break, a beam of light shoots outwards into the sky. Animals begins to roar as if they can sense that an important power had appeared, which is Aang. When Sokka first met Aang, he specifically asked him, "Why aren't you frozen?" This question implied that a normal person wouldn't have been able to survive this. However, Aang managed to survive because he used the Avatar state. From the very first episode, the show had already implanted the idea that Aang have a crush on Katara. When Aang wakes up from the iceberg, Katara is the first person that he sees and instantly he is drawn by her appearance. The show signified this by the close-up shot of Katara and the soft light-hearted music playing in the background. The reason why I'm saying it's a crush rather than a romantic interest is because Aang doesn't know anything about Katara. It's Katara's appearance that causes Aang to have an infatuation with her. Also, when Aang first sees Katara, he doesn't proceed to ask the typical questions such as "Where am I?" Instead, he says to Katara,
"Will you go penguin sledding with me?"
Viewers can interpret this as Aang asking Katara on a date, but she clearly doesn't interpret the invitation as a date, since confusion appears on her face and she agreed by saying sure, I guess, while distancing herself from Aang. During the next scene, when Sokka and Katara is sitting on Appa, a conversation happened between Aang and Katara.
Why are you smiling at me like that?
This dialogue further reinforced the idea that Katara does not see Aang in the same way and she does not realize that he have a crush on her. Realize that Zuko and Iroh both wears red clothing. I began to research the meaning of red to discover that there's multiple meaning of the color like love. However, Zuko and Iroh are the villains in Season 1, so they are wearing dark shades of red. Since red also signifies danger and wrath, Iroh represents danger since he used to be one of the general in the Fire Nation, whereas Zuko would be wrath since he constantly loses his temper throughout Season 1. The most interesting fact is that red is considered to be the color of blood and fire, which suits the Fire Nation, since the Fire Nation is an oppressive empire that seeks to dominate the world. The show also implanted small details that suggests the war had negatively impacted Katara. This is seen when Katara takes Aang to meet her village. Her grandmother is the head of the village, and after Katara had introduced Aang to the village, Katara's grandmother says to her, "Alright, no more playing. Come on Katara, you have chores." Towards the end of the episode, Katara and Aang goes penguin sledding. During this scene, Katara confessed to Aang that, "I haven't done this since I was a kid." This shows that the war had stolen from Katara a carefree childhood. The penguin sledding scene is Aang and Katara first bonding moment since Katara starts to relax around Aang as they have fun together. The pastel colors that is used as scene also imply this as well, since pastel colors are links with certain emotions such as happiness. As Aang and Katara finishes penguin sledding, they find an abandoned Fire Nation's ship. Aang makes his way towards the ship but Katara tries to stop him. In response to this, Aang tells Katara, "If you want to be a bender, you have to let go of fear." This caused Katara to follow Aang into the ship. This moment is very important since it highlights that Katara begins to trust Aang and her desire to become a waterbender. Inside the ship, the realization that Aang had been stuck in the iceberg for 100 years begins to dawn on them. Upon realizing this, Aang is shocked and Katara tries her best to comfort him. She does this by telling him that maybe there is a bright side to all of this. His reply is, "I did get to meet you." This reply causes Katara to smile fondly at him. This is a massive hint that Aang can win Katara's heart. Throughout the show there is a constant theme that Zuko is always trying to prove himself by regaining his honor back. This behavior is already shown at the end of episode 1 when Zuko discovers Aang and Katara due to the ship releasing a flare. Upon seeing this, Zuko instructs the soldiers to
Wake my uncle! Tell him I found the Avatar.